Hello everyone, welcome to Let's Go Ancient. Today I'm here to talk about one of the soldiers who sacrificed his life for his country. The soldier Captain Saurabh Kalia. The hero India must never forget. There are soldiers whom history remembers because of the battles they won. There are soldiers remembered because of their final words. But Captain Saurabh Kalia's story is different. Because even 27 years after his death, India still does not know everything that happened during the final weeks of his life. On the 15th of May 1999, a young Indian army officer led 5 soldiers towards Bajrang Post in Kaksar sector of Kargil. Their names were Captain Saurabh Kalia, Sepoy Arjun Ram, Sepoy Bhanwar, Sepoy Bhika, Sepoy Moola and Sepoy Naresh Singh. 6 soldiers entered the mountains. None of them returned alive. For more than 3 weeks, their families did not know where they were, whether they were injured, whether they have been taken as a prisoner, or whether they would ever return home. Then, on 9th of June 1999, Pakistan handed their bodies over to India. The findings recorded by Indian doctors raised allegations of brutal torture and severe mistreatment before death. India accused Pakistan of violating the Geneva Convention. But Pakistan denied the allegations. And from that moment, another battle began. Not on the mountains of the Kargil, but inside courtrooms, government offices, and international institutions. It became the battle of the father who refused to allow the suffering of his son and 5 other soldiers to disappear from history. This is not only the story of Captain Saurabh Kalia's death. This is the story of how he lived, what his patrol discovered, what the public documents reveal, and why his family is still waiting for justice. Before he became a national hero, before he became Captain Saurabh Kalia, he was simple Saurabh, a son, a brother, and a student, a young man trying to build his future. Saurabh was born on 29th of June 1976. Although most records identify Amritsar as his birthplace, but he grew up in Palampur, Himachal Pradesh. His parents were Dr. Narendra Kumar Kalia and Vijaya Kalia. He also had a young brother named Vaibhav. Saurabh studied at DAV Public School in Palampur and later completed his Bachelor's of Science degree in Medical Sciences from Himachal Pradesh Agricultural University. He was educated, capable, and could have chosen to be in a different professional career. But he chose the Indian Army. That is the level of dedication he had and love he had for the country. His family remembered him not merely as a serious officer in uniform, but as a cheerful and mischievous young man. His mother reportedly called him naughty. The small family nickname is important. The country remembers his military photograph, but his mother remembered the child who grew up inside her home. Before returning to the duty, Saurabh reportedly gave his mother a signed blank check so that she could withdraw money whenever she needed it. She never used it. The family preserved it as one of the final reminders of their son. At that time, it must have appeared to be a simple and a practical gesture. But after his death, it became a piece of unfinished life. His journey into the Indian Army in 1997, Saurabh was selected through the Combined Defence Service Examination and entered the Indian Military Academy. The academy is not simply a place where cadets learn to march or use weapons. It is where young civilians are trained to become military leaders. A newly commissioned officer may be only 21 or 22 years, but he can be given responsibilities for soldiers who are older, more experienced, married, and responsible for families of their own. Saurabh Kalia completed his training and was commissioned into the Indian Army on the 12th of December 1998. He reported to the Jat Regiment in Bareilly and soon joined 4th Battalion of the Jat Regiment. He was posted in the Kargil region when the crisis began. In May 1999, Saurabh had been a commissioned army officer for only around 5 months. His military career had barely begun. The public submission made to the United Nations identifies his service number as IC 58522 and records him as a lieutenant of 4 Jat India. However, remembers him as a Captain Saurabh Kalia. He was approaching his 23rd birthday when he was sent towards Bajrang Post. He did not live long enough to celebrate it. Kargil, before India realized a war had begun. To understand what happened to Saurabh's patrol, we must first understand Kargil in early May 1999. The line of control passes through some of the most difficult terrain on earth. The mountains are steep, the air is thin. Temperatures during winter can become deadly. Snow blocks routes and makes many high altitude positions extremely difficult to occupy. During the winter and early spring of 1999, Pakistani soldiers and armed infiltrators crossed the line of control and occupied commanding heights on the Indian side. So from those positions, they could observe and threaten movements along the vital road connecting to Srinagar to Leh. However, India did not immediately understand the full scale of the intrusion. The information came gradually. Local people and shepherds reported unusual activities, and then army patrols were sent to inspect different areas. Soldiers encountered firing from unexpected positions, and slowly Indian army realized that this was not a small group of irregular infiltrators. The intruders were heavily armed, supplied and entrenched on strategic heights. The Kaksar sector was one of the regions being examined. Indian patrols were sent to check posts and routes as snow began to recede. One of those positions was Bajrang Post. On the 15th of May, Saurabh was ordered to lead a patrol towards it, the 6-man patrol. Saurabh did not enter those mountains alone. 5 soldiers of 4 Jat went with him. Sepoy Arjun Ram, Sepoy Bhanwar Lal, Sepoy Bhika Ram, Sepoy Moola Ram, and Sepoy Naresh Singh. They must never be remembered as merely 5 other soldiers. Every one of them had a family. Every one of them had dreams. Every one of them faced same danger. According to the submission later made to the United Nations, the patrol moved towards the southwest spur of point 5299 near Bajrang Post. They reportedly encountered hostile forces and came under fire. The family's submission states that the radio communications were disabled and that they were captured alive before Indian reinforcements could reach them. Other accounts says that patrol fought until its ammunition was exhausted. However, there is no surviving member of this patrol to describe every minute of the encounter. There is no complete independently verified public records of this exact duration of the firing, the number of opposing soldiers, or the final conversation. A responsible documentary must never invent those details. What is consistently recorded is that the 6-man patrol disappeared on 15th of May. A broadcast from Radio Skardu repeatedly announced their capture. The submission states that Pakistani military authorities later denied holding them. The Indian army searched for the missing patrol, but the 6 men could not be recovered. They were declared missing in action. A 6 family began waiting for information. It's so haunting that a family is waiting for information whether their son is dead or alive. The families wait and wait and wait every day. The words missing in action create a painful kind of uncertainty. A family is not told that son is dead, but it is also not told that he is safe. It is a disturbing fact. Imagine, think about your parents. You're living in another country and they're waiting every day for one message or a chance to speak to you. They would be happy enough because they would know that my son is safe. Over here, they didn't know whether he was safe or was he dead or was he alive. The mind continues searching for possibilities. Perhaps he is injured. Perhaps he's hiding somewhere in the mountains. Perhaps he has been captured. Perhaps he will return through a prisoner exchange. That is a common practice between the countries. A published extract from the family's biography describes how Saurabh's parents learned that their son and the patrol were missing. At that time, the Kargil conflict had not yet become the national story yet. It was soon became, but at that point of time, it was not a national story. The families did not know what the country would discover over the following weeks. They knew only that their son had disappeared. The United Nations questionnaire records their detention location as unknown. It also states that no lawyer, relative, or friend was permitted to meet Saurabh during that period. The allegedly perpetrators were identified only as unknown members of Pakistani army, reportedly associated with either the Special Service Group or the Northern Light Infantry. No individual names were publicly established. No independent witness has given a complete account of their captivity. We do not know exactly where they were held. We do not know what questions they were asked. We do not know what happened on each individual day. We must not invent interrogation scenes or imaginary last words. I humbly request, because this is an ongoing case in an international forum, and we must remember that this was a great sacrifice. By manipulating the stories, we are disrespecting our soldiers, people who sacrificed for the country. The 6 soldiers left no testimony. Their bodies became their evidence. The bodies returned to India on 9th of June 1999. The bodies of 6 soldiers were handed over to Indian authorities. The family's legal submission states that Indian Army asked the International Committee of the Red Cross and the Indian Red Cross to conduct the post-mortem examinations. According to that filing, the requests were not accepted for reasons not specified in the documents. The examinations were ultimately conducted at the Army Hospital in Delhi Cantonment. Dr. N.K. Kalia sought access to his son's details post-mortem report. The submission states that he was initially denied access to the reports before eventually receiving it. The legal complaint says that the post-mortem report and death certificate were attached to the submission as an annexure. But there is an important fact, viewers. You must understand. The documents widely available online is not the complete signed post-mortem reports. It is legal submission summarizing the findings and referring to the original reports as an annexure. So, therefore, it should never be shown on the screen and falsely described as the complete autopsy. However, even the publicly available medical summary is deeply disturbing. What the public post-mortem summary records. I am going to describe this section clinically and respectfully. The purpose is not to sensationalize what happened. The purpose is to understand why the family accused the captors of torture. The detailed submission states that the postmortem recorded shock, brain injuries, firearm injuries inflicted before death, and additional injuries caused blunt force. It also lists damage to the eyes, gunshot wounds, multiple fractures, burns across the chest, and numerous wounds involving different areas of the body. When I say different areas of the body, you can understand what I am trying to say. When I was going through this report, it was so disturbing. I didn't want to explain everything so that it would become an extremely painful video for you people to watch. This case was not only for Saurabh Kalia, all the soldiers who were missing on that day. The shorter questionnaire submitted to the United Nations contains more severe allegations. It refers to cigarette burns, damage to the eardrums, broken bones and teeth, injuries to the eyes, mutilation, and eventually shooting. These descriptions were included in a formal complaint submitted by Saurabh's father and supporting petitioner. According to the file, they were based on the post-mortem report and death certificate. However, because the complete signed medical report is not publicly reproduced in that downloadable PDF. Unfortunately, we cannot independently examine every medical measurement, photograph, diagrams, or signature. That limitation must be stated honestly. But the public summary makes one point clear: injuries were described as antemort. That means they were reportedly inflicted before death. This became the foundation of India's allegation that the soldiers had been tortured while in captivity. Pakistani denied the accusation. No international criminal trial has publicly identified and prosecuted individual perpetrators. Therefore, the most accurate statement is this: according to the Indian postmortem findings, summarized in Families United Nations submission, the bodies carried evidence cited by the petitioner as proof of severe torture and mistreatment before death. The truth does not need exaggeration, guys. It only needs to be remembered as a sacrifice to save his country. And salute to that soldier. They are the ultimate heroes of that country. Even war has rules. War is violent, I understand that. But war is not supposed to be without rules. The Third Geneva Convention governs the treatment of prisoners of war. Article 13 requires prisoners to be treated humanely and protect them against violence and mutilation. Article 17 prohibits physical and mental torture during interrogation. Article 130 identifies willful killing, torture, inhumane treatment, and intentional causing serious suffering as a grave breach. Captured soldier does not lose his humanity. The capturing power becomes responsible for protecting him. But this never happened over here. Every particular rule was broken. It cannot torture him because he refuses to reveal some military information. It cannot mutilate him. It cannot deny him basic humane treatment. Therefore, if actions described in the Indian medical or legal submissions were established through a judicial process, they would represent an extremely serious violation of international humanity law. But there is a difference between knowing that certain conduct is prohibited and proving the criminal responsibility of a specific individuals. There is a small problem over here. A criminal case requires jurisdiction, evidence, suspects, witness, and a court legally authorized to hear it. This gap between moral outrage and legal jurisdiction became the center of the Kalia's family's long struggle. A father's fight for justice. After losing his son, Dr. Kalia began writing to Prime Minister, Defense Ministers, External Affairs Ministers, politicians, and international organizations. For him, this was not an abstract decision about international law. His son had entered the mountains while serving the country. His body had returned with injuries the family believed and proved to be torture. But no individual was publicly identified or punished. So in 2012, Dr. Kalia's legal campaign entered two important forums. A writ petition was filed before the Supreme Court of India. The petition sought further action and questioned whether India should take the matters before an international court. The case was also submitted to the United Nations Special Division. But a United Nations Special Division is not a criminal court. A special division can examine allegations, contact governments, and raise human rights concerns. That's it. The International Court of Justice, or ICJ, deals with disputes between countries. The International Criminal Court, or ICC, deals with criminal responsibility of individuals where legal jurisdiction exists. The institutions simply cannot be used interchangeably. The Kalia family wanted India to approach the International Court of Justice against Pakistan, but an individual family cannot directly force another country to appear before ICJ. The Indian government would have to bring the case, and the court would first need legal jurisdiction. India and Pakistan have maintained legal reservations concerning compulsory ICJ jurisdiction, especially in disputes involving Commonwealth countries and matters connected with hostilities. So in 2015, the Indian government said that because of the exceptional circumstances, it would ask Supreme Court to examine whether the existing legal position could be changed. But no completed international case followed. As of July 2026, the tribunal reported that the family's Supreme Court petition remained pending. But one fact does not change. All 5 were soldiers of India. India should be so proud to have this kind of soldiers. The soldiers who serve the country by sacrificing their life. Salute to the soldiers who are doing that. You are my hero. And thank you for saving us all the time and protecting from infiltrators and protecting us from danger. These 5 were soldiers of India and they entered the mountains with Saurabh. They disappeared with him. Their bodies were returned with his. Their families suffered. A tribute to Captain Saurabh Kalia is incomplete unless all 6 names are spoken. His legacy, Captain Saurabh Kalia, is remembered through memorial in Palampur, including Saurabh Vihar, Captain Saurabh Kalia Mark, and his family's memorial room containing his personal belongings. In 2005, the book The Legacy of Captain Saurabh Kalia was published, written by Srimati Sen. The work is important. Frankly speaking, it is really important because Captain Kalia identity should never be reduced only to cruelty allegedly inflicted upon him. His captors should not be allowed to define his life. He must be remembered for his education, his decision to join the army, his training, his relationship with his family, his leadership, and the courage he showed by entering uncertain and dangerous territory when his duty demanded. The injuries recorded after his death are evidence, are only evidence, not his story. They are not the definition of the man. So, Captain Saurabh Kalia was 22 years old when he entered the Kaksar mountains with 5 soldiers under his command. He had served as commissioned officer for only few months. He never celebrated his 23rd birthday. He never saw India win Kargil war. He never saw the tricolor raised again over the heights Indian soldiers fought to claim. Captain Saurabh Kalia, Sepoy Arjun Ram, Sepoy Bhanwar Lal, Sepoy Bhika Ram, Sepoy Moola Ram, and Sepoy Naresh Singh, 6 soldiers of 4 Jat, 6 sons of India. May their courage never be forgotten. From today, I proudly say that they are my heroes who served the country and protected my country. May their families always be treated with dignity and complete truth of what happened to them one day receive the justice. Jai Hind. If you feel the documentary which I did today was a meaningful one, explaining the sacrifice done by the soldiers, let's support them by liking this video and sharing with multiple people. And also for more videos like this, please support by subscribing. Until then, Dhanyavad.